I'm the Gypsy and you're not, and this is part 4 of the Mespelbrunn Water Castle rework. Now, if you've been following us in parts 1, 2, and 3, you know that first thing I did was work on the sky. Now, I'm not totally done with that sky yet. There's still some areas I want to touch on it, but I'm going to do that later. I'm not going to mess with this today. Last time, you saw that we worked down here on the reflections in the water. The reflections are not done. This is just the beginning of what I'm going to do with those reflections. There's a lot more to do with the reflections, and you know, you may be looking at it going, well, that looks pretty good, but no, I want this like a glass reflection. I want like looking in a mirror. This is just the base of the reflection. That's all that is. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the foliage. I'm going to start working on the trees and upon some of the greenery. Now, let me show you something. Here is, well, it's a little folded there. There's the original picture right there. Now, if you will notice that on this side here, see how tall those trees are right there? Look on the other side, see how tall they are. Notice that they're almost equal with the top of this tower right here. Well, if you look at the painting, the way these were done is they're too low. Here, there's not enough coming down angle like this. And it's the same way over here. If you notice, once I covered this area here and got rid of the too much tree going up this direction, they're low here, but I did that on purpose so that I could add to them up at the top. This is really rough. This canvas is really rough here because the paint was just really thrown on there in globs. My ex-wife, she is like an angry German expressionist. Now, I wish I could have coined that phrase myself, but I didn't. Rachel, my wife now, she actually coined that phrase. And she said that's what Debbie was like, angry German expressionist. Not that it's a bad thing to be an angry German expressionist, but it's not what we really want for a painting that's supposed to be kind of serene, I guess, and pastoral. So we're going to take some of that away. So, like I said, what we're going to do today is we're going to work on getting these trees where they're supposed to be. So I'm going to make an imaginary line in my head, and I'm going to come across here. And I'm going to find a point where I can start. Now, my point where I can start with these is right down this area. There's a little speck right there, a little speck of paint right there. And what I'll do is I'm going to start right in this area. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the pine trees. The pine trees are back here in the distance. They don't have to be distinct. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to take a little sap green, which is this right here. I'll pull that down. Smooth it out really nice. And take a little bit of black, just a touch. Mix it in with that sap green. I want to darken that up just a little bit. Still want it to be green, but we're going to darken it up. I'm going to put a little more green down in there. Just like that. Okay. So now you see we got this really dark green here, almost verging on black. It's not quite black, but it's close. Now I'm going to take just a touch of this blue. We're going to add it in there. This is going to give us a look that we're wanting. We want that really far away look. Alright. Now that I have that, and we may have to mix up some more here. There may not be enough there. What I'm going to do, take a fan brush, and I'm just going to load the very ends of the fan brush. Just barely put a little bit on there. You can see there's very little on the edge there. Okay. I'm going to come up here to my point where I decided that I was going to start at. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make an imaginary line right down through here like that. Just like that. That way I know where I'm going. Okay? And then I'm going to go, all I'm going to do is I'm going to press this down. Just like that. I'm going to get a little bit wider as I go down. Now some of this is going to be covered. Like I said, we're just wanting to give the impression of those trees back there. That's all we're wanting to do. Just give the impression of them. You don't want much there, just using the edge of the brush. Those trees, of course, they go on and they go on forever, so we need to bring them off the edge right there. A little bit more here. I'm going to do it again. I'll come down, I'm going to make an imaginary line just a little bit lower. And then I'm going to just, these are pine trees. Remember, they're off in the distance. They're way back. Now you may be saying to yourself, well, Gypsy, that looks a little large there. And I want it to look large, and you'll understand why here in a minute. So, still just loading the fan brush, just loading the edge of the fan brush. I make my imaginary line again, and then I just kind of come in here like this. Now, pine trees are interesting because there's a whole lot of things you can do with them. A whole lot of things. And they're really easy to make. There's nothing to them. You just always use a fan brush. I mean, that's probably about the simplest thing to do. You notice as I'm going along here, I'm getting a little bit lower with these initial trees here, and a little bit lower. And notice that my initial lines are not real distinct. They're just, because we're off in the distance, you're not going to have this really defined look that you do if you were working closer. If you were working closer, you'd do something a lot different. But we're working off in the distance there. And we're coming down. Maybe this one's going to be a little bit taller, I think. I want to make it a little bit taller. Okay, they're moving down a hill, down the side of the mountain. So, of course, as you go down, they are definitely going to, descend with the mountain that they're coming down off of. Remember, these are off in the distance, way back in there. So, now we got our initial pine tree look. I'm going to brush in a little bit here. Okay, so now we have that. Now this is where it gets fun at, okay? This is where we kind of do a little magic with these. First off, I'm going to take a little bit of black here, smooth it out without cleaning off my palette knife because I want to pick up some of that green, but I want this a darker black, so we're going to smooth that black out. Then what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to very lightly load the fan brush. I'm just going to kind of brush up like so. Just brush up a little bit. Lightly load that fan brush and brush up just a little bit. Just like that. Again, load the end of the fan brush just a little bit. Brush up lightly. Just like that. Okay, then I'm going to load the fan brush again. And I'm going to come in right in these areas here, in these little gaps that you see right here. I'm just going to lightly touch in there. Just lightly touch. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give an impression of depth here and distance. Sometimes when you do that, you can overdo it. So don't ever, if you try this yourself, don't ever overdo it. If you're just watching me, just for the fun of it, overdo it. No, seriously. If you ever go to do this, just be careful because you never want to overdo. Now what I'm going to do, without cleaning this, without cleaning the palette knife, I'm going to grab a little bit of white, just a little bit. Come over here. I'm going to brush it down a little bit. You can see I'm picking up some of that green and black right there, right? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Again, lightly loading just the very end of the fan brush. You just want to tap it in there. That's all I do is just tap it in. And now I'm going to tap here and there. Just a couple of taps. What I'm doing is I'm creating that far away kind of misty look that these would have. Just kind of tap here and there. Now, take the flat side of the fan brush, and what I have left there of my mixture, I'm going to brush it up. Brush it up. Now once I get this brushed up, I'm going to take my 2-inch brush. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work those bristles back and forth. Feels kind of good on the hand. Then I'm just going to lift. Just going to lift. That's all I'm doing. Just lift it up. Now our pine trees have that far away look that we want them to have. They're way off there in the distance, coming down off of the mountain. And as you see, they're about even with that tower like we want it. So now we have those in there. Those are looking really good. I like them a lot. Now, I got to work the foliage up here. Now, in our original photograph that we're working off of, you can see there's lighter foliage up in this area right here. Okay? You see that? Right there, lighter foliage. Okay, I forget that. I have to bring it up to the camera where you can see it. You got lighter foliage right up in here, coming down into here. So, what I'm going to do is I have this brush I modified. I have this 1-inch brush I modified, and I use it for a couple of things. I use it on clouds. I use it on trees too. It's just a little 1-inch brush. And I'll show you after I break up the bristles here. I'll show you why I modified this. See how I cut it into a curve? It's a curved brush. You can buy these, but when I'm doing trees, the ones that you buy are really soft, and you probably want to use those for like clouds, and I have used them for clouds. But for trees, I want something that's a little bit stiffer, and this is stiff, so what I'm going to do, and again, I'm not cleaning my palette knife today, and there's reasons for that. It's because leaves on trees are all different sorts of colors, they're not just one color. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab some of this Viridian U, that's what this is called, Viridian U. I'm going to smooth it out, again, not cleaning the palette knife. I'm going to pull it over into this part here, just like that. Okay? I'm going to pick up a little bit off the side of the darker, and here's the lighter right here. And I want those two mixtures just like that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, I'm going to load it, load the bristles on the end. Again, I'm just tapping the bristles on the end, is all I'm doing. And then I'm going to start tapping here. You see those darker trees that were there before? Well, now I'm tapping them out a little bit, adding that lighter color in there. That's all I'm doing, is just tapping those out. So they don't quite look like pine trees anymore. That's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to layer here. Always got to layer. You always got to layer. Start at the back and I work forward. And I tap out what I need to tap out. And these rounded bristles, what's nice about them is they don't leave like a solid mass in one place when you tap them out. You got lighter areas at the ends, and you got you got stronger areas towards the center. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. So I'm just tapping out. There, that looks pretty good. I tapped those darker pine trees out pretty good. Still left the dark area because I can use the dark area. Okay? You know, it gets dark in forest. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a little yellow here. Lemon yellow. Makes me want lemonade. Lemon yellow. And I'm going to pull out again. I'm going to pull that yellow down. Notice I haven't cleaned my palette knife yet. I'm still not cleaning that palette knife. This time though on the yellow, I'm going to pull it all down. I want all that green mixed in there with that yellow. See that there? Makes a really nice color. Okay. So now, I'm going to grab my regular 1-inch brush. And I'm going to start layering trees in there. So, just tap the ends of the 1-inch brush. And start putting my trees in. I'm just barely touching the canvas. I'm letting the canvas do all the work. I'm not doing the work. Canvas is doing it, so is the brush. All I'm doing is touching it here and there. Start getting those trees layered in. You can see what's happening here. We're getting those distant leaves in there. And you want to take individual trees. You don't want like the same mass going on here. This is all individual trees. These are separate trees. And I'll show you how you can really separate them here in a second. So see, what I've done is I've come in here and I've used the darker area where the original tree line was at. And I've used it as a background for these trees. Okay, now once I get those initial trees in there like that, back there, a little bit up here, a little bit more in this area, I'm thinking we'll come up here just a little bit. Okay, once I get those initial areas in right there, now what I'm going to do, you can see those nice blends of yellows and greens in there that we have. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to take yellow again. I'm going to add it to that mixture that I had there a second ago. And I'm going to pull it down. I'm getting some of that off the knife. I'm going to pull it down again into what we had there. I want this more yellow, so I'm not going to mix it much. Okay, now what I'll do is again just loading the tips of my brush. Go in here and kind of touch those just a little bit. Remember, we want to separate the trees out. That's what we're doing, is we're separating the trees. You know, it's not all just one tree. It's different trees in there. They can be all the same species of tree, but they can't be all the same tree because that would be kind of silly for a tree to be that long, wouldn't it? Okay. Now you see I've got some nice yellows going there, some nice little yellow highlights. I'm going to round off this one a little bit more. Make that one a little more yellow than his buddies over there. Bring some yellow, some more yellow down here on this side, like so. Round that guy out. We'll highlight up in here. I'm going to highlight right in this area right here. I'm liking how that looks. Now what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to add some dark areas. So using what I scraped off my palette knife, I'm just going to pat that there. I'm going to pick that up. I'm going here. We'll get dark in a couple areas. Just come down in there with the darkness. Any place I see dark in there, I kind of hit that a little bit. And now I have my separation of trees. You can see them there. They're all separated. Now we're going to come down closer. We're going to come in this area here. Okay? And what I'm going to do is we're going to come down here again. And we're going to mix these together like so. Just like that. And then I'm going to tap the end of this brush. I'm going to tap right in here. Now you're not going to see much here for a minute, okay? But here in a second you're going to see what we're doing and you'll go, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. I wasn't sure. Thought maybe he was insane. Didn't know. I am a little insane, you know. You have to be slightly insane to be an artist. I don't know if anybody ever told you that or not, but you can't be totally sane and be an artist. Just, it can't happen. And if you think you can, you got a lot to learn. Look at Salvador Dali. Man, he was, I admire Dali, you know. He was definitely a genius. Take some of that off there. I'm going to grab some white here. I'll come over here. Pull me some white out. But yeah, he was pretty amazing. He really was. Now these are closer, so you want these more defined. So if you use a little bit of white, you come in here, touch those a little bit. So all you have to do is just kind of touch them a little bit. See, what's happening is we're creating our layers. We've got layers of trees there. Now, you know as well as I do that it just can't be layers of trees, you know. They can't be, oh, we got all the same trees here and we got all the same trees here. That's why you add a contrast of color in places. So I'm going to add this contrast right in here. This little contrast. And by adding that little bit of yellow in there, what I've done, that kind of yellow-green, what I've done is I've made this a whole separate area of trees, and I'm going to carry those trees over into here, down here at the bottom. Now I have those there. Now up here, I'm going to grab some of this. I'm going to put different trees in there. See, now we have a different tree going over there. It's not the same as the other trees around it. Looks kind of similar, but it's definitely not the same. I need to grab some more of this white here. We'll grab some more white and bring it down. Yeah, I'm talking about Salvador Dali. He had this interview, I think it was on PBS, and the reporter, they're doing a documentary on him. The reporter goes to the door of Dali's castle. Yes, he had a castle, folks. Anyway, the reporter goes to the door of Dali's castle. See, we'll put a little different tree up in there. And he knocks on the door, and this cloaked figure, looking like an ancient monk, comes to the door and opens it up and then walks away. The reporter follows the cloaked figure, cameras rolling, and they enter this courtyard. In this courtyard, there's a group of people gathered around a stuffed giraffe. standing in the middle of the courtyard, and around this stuffed giraffe there is a bunch of wood stacked up. All of a sudden, one of the cloaked figures walked forward, takes a torch, and lights the wood on fire. And they all stand there and they watch this stuffed giraffe totally burn to the ground. Then all of the figures leave the courtyard, except one. Remember, the reporters stand there, nobody's talked to him, they got the cameras rolling, and after everybody left the courtyard, the one lone cloaked figure that was there walks over to the reporter. And it just so happens to be Salvador Dali. And he looks at the guy and he says, "What do you think?" And the guy looks at Salvador Dali and says, "I don't get it." And Dali looks at him and he says, "Well, then I don't want to talk to you." And turns around and walks off. That was Salvador Dali. And he was creating his own expression of art. You know, he's the master of surrealism. Even though he did not create surrealism, he is considered to be the master. Okay, we're about done. I think we're about done up in there. I'm grabbing a little more white, keeping some yellow mixed in with the white. And I'm going to touch this white right here. I want some contrast color up in there, and I'm going to touch it here. I want some different trees in this area. That is looking pretty good, don't you think? I kind of like it. Okay, so now we have our faraway pines up there. They're kind of off in the misty distance. And then we have our foliage coming down the hillside there. Okay, thick greenery. Now what I'm going to do is this area right in here, this grassy area, haven't cleaned my palette knife, I'm going to just come through here like this. And we're going to hit that again right through here, like so, with the palette knife. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my 2-inch brush, I'm going to brush this out, just kind of brush it through there. Get a nice little brush. See, it adds a really nice, lighter area right in there. Kind of blends it down. You see some little light coming from up here down to there, you know, kind of touching it. Not much though, because we've got the cloudy sky. You don't want to do too much right there. Now, we're going back in here again with our yellow. I'm going to put some small bushes in here. Just really small, some small yellow bushes. Just something right there on the edge. And you notice how I'm leaving this kind of blurred back in there. It's because it's distance. See, it's darker in this area here where it's closer to you, but back in there, it's kind of, it lightens up and it's back in the distance. The mistake that a lot of people make when they're doing distance painting that I've noticed is that they try to put the light closer to you and put the dark further back. In some instances that works, but if you really want to grab depth, you need the darker closer to you, because the closer it is to you, the more defined it is, the darker it's going to be. Okay? Now, the further back it goes, it's lighter. Don't believe me? Come to Kansas. Stand out on the prairie. Look at the prairie. Notice that it's darker closer to you and then it's lighter further off. That's what you always want to do. Lighter further off. Not always, but the majority of the time that's what you're going to do. So now I got this area right here done. I'm very happy with that. I could, if I wanted, I don't know if I want or not, and maybe later on I'll come back in and do it. Maybe I'll do it now. Hold on, I want to do something here. Let's play a little bit. We can always go back and change it. That's the nice thing about paintings. That's why we're doing this rework, because we're changing it. Okay, I'm going to take my fan brush without cleaning it out. I'm going to grab some white that I just put on the palette there, and I'm just going to kind of touch my trees up in here, just a little bit. I don't want to touch them much. On one side where they pick up light from, touch them just a little bit, so if they're a little bit lighter on one side. See, I'm just touching one side of them. I want to pick up just that little bit of light on one side. Yeah, kind of like that. Okay. We'll leave that alone, past that. I'm good. Yeah, I like that. Okay. So I picked up a little bit of light on one side of the trees there. I kind of like it. I like the dimension that it gives, the depth. Without cleaning my brush though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in here again between these areas. Remember we hit those once before? I'm going to just touch a little bit in those areas back there. Not much, just a little bit. Alright, so there we go. We have our depth going. We have our trees. Now, this area right here, I'm not doing anything with this today. The reason why I noticed that in our original photograph, I need to get rid of this one thing because we're not going to use it anymore. In our original photograph, right there, that's that wall here. And I don't know whether you can see it or not, but if you notice it's on a slant here, okay, which gives it dimension. This is flat, so I'm going to eventually bring this wall on a slant right here. So I don't want to do anything with the foliage here yet until I take care of this wall right here. So we're going to move away from that. Now, you notice that there is a kind of, well, it looks like a reddish tree here, okay? It almost reminds me of a plum tree, the same type of colors. But I'm not going to mess with that today either. I'm waiting on that one. I don't want to touch this one yet. I want this, I'm going to do something separate with this. So where we're going to go now is I'm going to go over here to this side. Now, this is interesting what's going to happen here. Notice that this over here is kind of darker than this. Still the same trees though. So what I need to do is I need to kind of lighten that up. There's too much white going on in here. So I'm going to lighten that up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come in here and I need to pull this down. We're going to end up using all of these, okay? So I'm going to pull this down, I'm going to pull all this down right here. We're going to mix that up. We're going to blend all that together right there. I'm going to grab a little bit of black and add the black in there, like so. Blend all that up, just get all that mixed up. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of this blue here and I'm going to push that in there. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to take care of my distance trees. So we're going to come in. Again, I'm going to use this rounded brush that I made. I'm going to fold up the tips of it. And I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to tap. And hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. Let's tap that in. Remember, I got an imaginary line here where the top of that castle is. I just want to tap these in. I want an uneven top to the trees. And that's what I'm doing. I'm creating an uneven top to the trees. So I'm just kind of tapping all that in right there. Most of my canvas is moving around as I'm doing that. Let's do something here. I got my canvas kind of propped up a little bit for when I was working on the water down below. Let's go ahead and unprop it. Yes, we use modern techniques to prop canvases with. We use a level and a roll of tape. That's because I've used nothing but the most modern techniques to prop up my canvas. we're going to continue to tap this dark area up here at the top. Notice I move my brush around into different angles to get those uneven tree looks up there. Tap that around. We want that totally uneven up there. It does not need to be even at all. Okay, now we're going to come out into here. The trees actually come at an angle down into this area right here. So that's where I'm heading to right now. With my uneven treetops. Coming right down into here. I'm going to come up a little bit. We're just going to work that down. And fill that space all through there. We want some light coming through those treetops because, you know, treetops are not solid. And I think we'll put a little bit larger tree right in there. We're going to hit that. And notice they're all uneven. Notice that there's nothing even here. That's not what it's about. It's not about being even. It's about being trees. So, and no, I'm not going to go into the Bob Ross thing about happy little trees. So if you're expecting that, I hate to sorely disappoint you, but it's not going to happen. Okay, now that I got my uneven treetops in there, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in. This is where it's going to get fun for me. Okay, now I'm going to grab just a little bit of that white, just a little white. I'm going to mix it up into here so this lightens up a little bit, like so. Okay, now I'm going to come in with my 1-inch flat brush. I'm going to start working this out. I'm going to go a little bit slower and a little bit lighter. Remember, these are separate trees, so you want to treat them as separate trees. In your mind's eye, what I do, in my mind's eye anyway, is I kind of visualize the tree. Even though the tree is not revealing itself right at first, I visualize where that tree would be, and I kind of pat it out in that area. Because you want the idea, okay, so there's a tree here, there's a tree here, and I just kind of imagine where that tree's going to be. Now, you notice this looks kind of solid right now, but it won't. If you're paying attention over on the other side, you saw me suddenly separate the trees out from the background. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing here. I'm going to separate the trees from the background. Remember, we got a lot of rough area on this side of the canvas that I'm going to have to account for, but that's okay. We can account for it. All right. Now I'm going to take some of that yellow, like we did before, and we're going to start separating the trees. So I'll put my yellow down, and I'm going to pull it out. That water in the picture, in the painting we're doing here, sure looks refreshing. We got a really nice swimming pool in our backyard, but we have not been able to use it over the past week because it's just been nasty most of the week. And we've had a lot of rain going on, lots and lots of rain, and had some really severe thunderstorms the other night. So, you know, being able to use the pool, yeah, you're not going to swim in the thunderstorm. I mean, I don't know about you, but I really don't have a desire to do that. Kind of a little concerned about today. There's supposed to be an air show out at Forbes Field, the former Air Force base of the Strategic Air Command before they moved up to, I think it was Omaha, and down to Dyess Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas. Anyway, there's supposed to be an air show out there today, but it's kind of stormy outside this morning, so I don't really know if it's going to take place. I'm kind of disappointed because the lady Teresa that has the hair stop, which is right next to our studio, she's planning on having a barbecue up behind the building, and we can see the air show from the back of my tattoo studio, so we're going to sit back there and watch the air show. Of course, I got some tattooing work to do today, so that ain't going to happen for me. I may be able to grab some of that barbecue if they're still going to do the barbecue. I hope they are. I really do. Okay. So now, you see I've added some yellow in there. It's time to do a little brushing here, okay? So, without cleaning the brush, I'm going to lightly just kind of brush in here, just lightly. Remember, we're working on distance here, right? So I'm just kind of brushing up a little bit. Brushing up. This is actually on this side of the canvas. It's actually at a further distance than the other side. It's actually further back, so we have to give that impression. So now I brushed up into there. And the next step is to grab some more yellow. A lot of yellow usage, lots. Better have a large tube of yellow. I don't, so I may run out of yellow today. No, I got a couple of small tubes of yellow. I'm not going to run out of yellow, but definitely having yellow on hand helps. So I'm going to pull out some more yellow without cleaning my palette knife, because I really want to pick up that color. And we're going to add some more. I'm going to separate those trees. Let's get them separated. Yeah, as you can see, they're starting to reveal themselves in there. There was trees in there. We knew that there were. They were just kind of hiding. You just got to kind of say, peekaboo, we see you. And bring them out of there. Look at that. Starting to come out. You see them there? You see those trees? I can see them. They only hid for a little bit. Now we'll bring them out. It's interesting when I do a rework on a tattoo, I have to kind of look at the tattoo and decide how will the lines and the detail that I'm adding, how will that work into being able to cover the tattoo? How do I take the old lines and incorporate them into the new tattoo? Well, what's funny about this is it's kind of the same thing. I'm kind of looking at the old work underneath, I'm going, well, how do I incorporate that into the new painting that I'm doing? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to pick up some of what was already there and use it as a base for what I'm doing. And as you can see, we're starting to see that we do have separate trees in there. And they go back up the mountainside. Now there's no pine trees on this side. The pine trees are only over on this side. So now we got our trees up in here. Well, now we need to come down with our next layer, which is right here, which is going to be lighter. So I'm going to grab the white, and using the greens that are already here, and what's on the palette knife, we'll load up the end of this brush. I'm going to lightly touch these areas here. So that we can start getting the trees that are closer to us. You see how this area is starting to darken here, and this is lighter back here. Remember what I told you about light in the distance and less, and here's the exception, pine trees. Okay, they're more in shadow back there, so we want them looking exactly like that. So we're going to come in, and we're going to keep adding white. I need to grab a little more white here. Where'd my white go? There it is. We need a little more white. Because I definitely want these trees to separate out. I'm interested in this side of the canvas because to me this side was the more damaged side as far as how it looked. So I'm really interested in bringing this side to life quite a bit. So I'm just gonna work this out. I'm gonna grab the trees. I'll work those trees. You notice, you can see now we're starting to get the separation of the different trees, which is what we want. We want separation here. I think there's a tree right in here. Now, if you've ever watched The Joy of Painting, which I'm sure a lot of you have with Bob Ross, he does a method called wet on wet. Wet on wet, and what I'm doing right now, only works for blending. I don't want to use it to do my whole scenario here. All we're doing right now is we're doing some blending, okay? I'm not entirely happy with this area in here, to be honest with you. So I honestly think I do need to grab some more yellow. And I need to work it in there just a little bit more. Like I said, I'm really interested in this side of the painting because in my mind, it was the area that was just kind of lacking. It just seemed to be blobbed in, and that really bothered me a lot. Because this should be a really pretty area. And so we're going to make it a really pretty area. Okay, I'm starting to like that a little bit better. I'm just going to come in here and we're just going to touch some of this here. Try to bring those out. Almost there. Yeah, that's starting to, I'm starting to like that separation a little bit better right there. I know, I get pretty picky on this stuff, but you know, thing of it is, is that if you're gonna sign your name to something, you better like what you're signing your name to. Otherwise, don't sign your name to it. That's just, I mean, honestly, that's all there is to it. You don't like it, don't sign your name to it. I can't tell you how many pieces of art I've thrown away in my life. Quite a few. Quite a few pieces of art I've just tossed. Because they had to be tossed. They were lacking. Alrighty. Yeah. You can see what's going on here. You can see as this separates out right here. We got the separate trees back up there in the distance, which is what we wanted. Now, we'll grab some of this white over here that I pulled down. I'll come right in there. Just touch it. Just touch. Alrighty, that's looking pretty good. Now, yeah, I like that. That's getting to where I want it to be. Okay, so now that I have that done, we'll come up in here, and in order to do what I need to do right there, this is going to be too much fun. I'm going to grab some more of the sap green that I had a while ago. Lay that out there. I'm going to grab a little yellow. And I'm going to take my brush. You can see the brush is pretty loaded up right now. I'm going to clean out that brush a little bit. I want to take some of that paint out there. You'll see why in a second. We'll grab some of that paint out. Alright, I'm going to put my sap green down. There's my sap green, pulling it down. Grab a little bit of yellow, mix in with that sap green. Grab this blue, mix in with the sap green. Get that nice little color going right there. I like that. What do you think? Now what I'm going to do, come in here. I need to add some trees down in here. We need some definite trees. We're going to, different sizes. We need to see those trees right down in this area here. Those trees definitely need to be well defined. I think maybe we need some of those trees right up in there. Make sure that all these trees, because these are big trees and they're up right behind, they're right behind the building here. So we need to make those big trees very prominent. See that one there? Oh, that's a huge one. That is massive. That one's been around for a long, long time, hundreds of years. Since this is Germany, that one was probably around back when the Huns invaded. What do you think? I'm just guessing. I don't know. I wasn't there, so I can't tell you. But it's possible. And no, the Huns are not. Hey Hun, it's time for dinner. Huns are not very nice people. They definitely were not. Let's put a couple of those right up in here. Let's add some of that darkness in this area here. Okay. Alright. So now I've added the darkness where those foreground trees are going to be at. And now we're going to put the trees at. This should be fun. Alright, grabbing some of that yellow. Lightly loading the brush. We're going to start working those trees out. We're going to find them here. They're there. We just got to find them. You know how I know they're there? Well, the way I know that they're there is that I put them there. So that's how I know they're in there. I just got to find where they are. I think I'm finding them. They were trying to hide. They always, those trees, sneaky trees, they always try to hide. But if you're patient, and if you take your time, you can say, there you are, I see you. And let's come out and say hello to everybody. You need some more yellow. Some yellow. You know, Van Gogh used a lot of yellow in his paintings. He's fascinated by yellow. If you look at his stuff, if you've ever paid attention to anything that Van Gogh did, you will see just so much yellow. I mean, even his last painting, Crows in a Cornfield. You aware of that one? It's the last thing he did before he shot himself. That one is just loaded with so much yellow. It's unbelievable. Honestly, to be truthful with you, I don't know what his fascination with yellow was. I don't think anybody really knows what his fascination was. There's speculation. Some people believe that because he was depressed all the time, that the yellow made him feel happy. And honestly, I hope it did. I hope it did make him feel happy. Because that man needed some happiness in his life. He strove for perfection. And he never felt that he was able to get that perfection that he strove for, which is really sad. All of us, I don't care who you are, all of us are perfect. No matter what we perceive our flaws to be, or no matter what others perceive our flaws to be, we are all perfect. Because we are exactly as God meant us to be. And if we say we're imperfect, then you're saying that God's imperfect. And God definitely is not imperfect. God plans you to be exactly the way you are. No matter who you are, no matter what you are. He planned you to be exactly the way you are. And so you're perfect. You are perfect. Unfortunately, Satan sometimes takes that perfection and he corrupts it, and we end up with evil people, misguided people, people who have forgot that they were made perfect. And so they've gone off on their own little thing and have totally forgot who and what they are and why they are. And unfortunately, others have to suffer for their forgetfulness. But I'm telling you right now, if you remember, if you always remember, that you were made the way God wanted you to be made. And that you don't have to be evil. You just have to be happy. Be satisfied with yourself, because honestly, as long as you do what you're supposed to do, and you remember who and what you are about, and that, as I've said, that you are indeed perfect, you always do the right thing. Always, no matter what that right thing is, you will do it. Okay. We are starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. You notice that my trees over on this side are different than they are over here. There's a reason for that. Because this is a more diverse area than over on the other side. There's an actual separation in how these trees formed from one side to the next. And so you end up with a whole different class of trees that have a whole different feel to them. One of the problems I'm having here is because of the heavy paint that was in this area here. It's having a tendency to draw color into deeper areas where I don't want it drawn at, but that's okay. I can compensate, I can make it better. I can make it stronger than it was, more powerful. I can make it the $6 million tree. No. Alright. I think we're looking pretty good right now. I think I want to grab some of this up here before we call it a day. And we're about ready to call it a day. I just want to kind of Now the question comes, am I liking this? And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% satisfied with this side. What can we do here? Well, for me, there's too much white in that side. There's way too much white. I need to bring it down a little bit, and before I call it a day, I am going to bring it down a little bit. I'm going to grab some of this Viridian U. We're going to use that. Yeah, the Viridian's a darker green. Add some black to it. Grab the rest of that blue up there, put that in there. Okay, I'm going to mute this down a little bit. I'm going to add some darker areas. Now what I will probably do is next time I sit down and work on this, I'm probably going to come back in and add some distinct weaves to the area. Because like I said, I'm not 100% sold right now on this. So we'll see the next time I work on this what I have to do to make me happy with what's going on. Because right now, like I said, I'm not 100% sold. I mean, I like it better than what was there, but I'm not 100% there yet. I do know I need to add some darker areas down in here. Need to darken that up quite a bit. Same way over here, I need to add some darkness right in there. I'm going to put darkness up in here. I need some darkness in there. You know, this is, I'm not sure, but I believe this is the Black Forest of Germany. Or at least it's close to it. So we do need a little darker. Okay. I like the darkness that I added there. I really do. Now what if... What if, before we call it a day, we do this? I'll grab that yellow one more time. Let's see how this works. Experimentation. I like to experiment, so let's see how this works. I'm going to pull that out. Gotta clean that palette knife. Grab just a little bit of the yellow. We're going to go in here. We're just going to touch it up just a little bit with some of that yellow. Just round out our trees a little. Just use a little touch of that yellow. I think some right over here will look good. You notice that as this gets worked, you don't immediately see the effect until you step back away from it. You have to step back away once in a while. Take a look. I've got one more area that I really want to hit before I call it a day, just to make me happy. So I'm going to have to pick up some more yellow before we continue on. That's okay. That's okay. Alright, let me grab this right here. I want a definition in this tree over here. Just because it's so prominent, you know? It's a prominent tree. It's they're saying, here I am, accept me, I am a tree. Use up the rest. Use up the rest of my yellow. And we are going to call it a day right there. I'm semi-satisfied with where we're at. I'm never going to be 100% satisfied. I'm just telling you, I'm just not. I'm just always going to do my thing and do it the best I can. And hopefully, you know, people that see my art will look at it hundreds and hundreds of years from now. Hundreds of years from now. They'll look at my art and they'll go, wow, what the hell was he thinking? No. They'll look at my art and maybe they'll appreciate it, maybe they won't. But whether they appreciate it or not, as long as I'm happy with it, that's okay. Even though I'll never be 100% satisfied with what I do. No artist ever is. But that's alright. You don't have to be 100% satisfied, just 99.9% satisfied. I'm just taking the fan brush here and I'm kind of lightly brushing this up right now while it's still wet, because next time I work on this it will be dry, because there's usually about a week in between the last ones I did and the next time you see me. So I'm just kind of brushing some of this up. Alright. I think that's pretty good. We got our off in the distance stuff. I'm going to do a little, just for the fun of it, do a little hint of trees back up in here. Way off, like maybe those are pine trees that are so far off we can't really see them. At the top of those mountains, it's going to be a little bit blurry because they are so far away from us. so far away. But they get closer as we come down. They're closer and closer. Yeah, there we go. Kind of liking that a little bit right there. Okay, if I don't quit right now, I'm going to sit here all day long and I'm going to work on this and I'm going to agonize over it, and this is going to be a way long video that you're not even going to want to look at. So I'm going to say that's it for today. We're done. We're done for the day. I'm going to put it down. I'm done. So I hope you enjoyed watching me rework this. Like I said, this was part 4, so we still have a ways to go before it's where I'm going to be totally satisfied with it. But until I am totally satisfied with it, I hope you join me each week to see the progress on it. And until next time, this is your friendly neighborhood Gypsy saying, hasta la vista, baby. Later, Gators. Bye-bye.